Yeah. So now you're live. Hello, anyone that might come here later. I'm Thiago, and I'm with Charlie today to look at some Python code to integrate ORCIDs, ORCIDs, or I don't know, whatever you pronounce them, to Wikidata. So if you have comments and you're watching us live, you can make comments in the chat or ask questions. And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I I have sort of like the personal reason why I want to be able to use ORCID and integrate it with Wikidata.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to keep track of actually the weird organizational chart within my organization, which is Harvard Med School, and then the actual I guess it's sort of a faculty. It's the Harvard program in therapeutic sciences, and then within that is the Laboratory for Systems Pharmacology, which has several PIs, and so a lot of them have their own labs within Laboratory Systems Pharmacology, but a lot of them also have dual appointments with other institutions in Boston, like Dana Farber or Brigham Women's or MGH, and so we were trying to figure out what was going on here. And I thought, well, Wikidata is pretty cool because there's Scholia, and maybe I'll just show you what I can already
Yeah,
find
I,
from
I will
this.
put your screen on the. I'll share your screen, right?
Yeah.
Now we are seeing your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So let's just search for LSP and see what our labs is. Fun. Okay. So this is where I work,
All right.
and so if anyone's not familiar with Scholia, this is an awesome front end to scholarly information and bibliometrics in Wikidata. So I'm always using this to look at stuff, and it has really cool, charts that get generated based on Sparkle queries. Wikidata is only as good as the stuff that's in it. So the idea is if we can automate putting some information into Wikidata, that would be great. So that's kind of okay. So let's see. Okay, this isn't recognizing that it's an organization properly. So let's just fix that page. Okay, so
Oh yeah.
here's
Okay.
some of the people, and so here's Peter Sorger. He's the guy who's kind of in charge of my subdivision, and then there's a couple
Mm-hmm.
other these are the PIs, and I've found my way to the top of this list. So somehow overrepresented because I have all sorts
Yeah.
of bizarre stuff in Wikidata that in addition to scholarly stuff. Anyway, so back to that, I have a list of the ORCID IDs of all sorts of other people in our organization, and I want to just kind of get them into Wikidata, but there's 100 of them, so I don't want to do them all by hand.
Mm-hmm.
I could do them by hand, but come on, let's what's the XKCD for this? Um, you know, worth the time. I think this is it, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yes.
So
I've seen it.
I don't know where we're. How much time you shave off? How often do you do the task? Probably yeah. I don't know. I think we're in the good zone here for it's worth just writing the Python code to do this. Okay, so here we are
Yeah.
at PyORCIDator. There was something that existed already, right? There was the ORCIDator which Magnus Manska made, and that's currently down right now. And I think there might be
Mm-hmm.
some sort of concerns about doing too much automated updating on Wikidata, but that's a little bit beyond me. So let's just try and now work through this in your Python code. Okay, so that's a big
Yeah.
preamble. So anyway, this is how I always go about looking at people's code. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. That's got a cool name. What's in it? All right. So there's some stuff in the README. There's a Python script. Okay, so I look up here. You've got a requirements.txt. So this code isn't packaged. So that's something that's really useful for everybody who's writing Python code is to just
Mm-hmm.
know what resources exist to package your code. And it's weird because knowing about packaging is sort of orthogonal to actually knowing how to program in Python. It's just kind of you just need a template that's the right shape, and you need to know how to put your information in the right places, and then you just go from there. So that kind of helps us
All right.
avoid these things where we have the Python call and then some local file paths, because then you can do this pip install, and then you can make these command line tools, but you can call them from Python-M because it's packaged code, or you can even put a vanity command line interface. So then you could maybe have PyORCIDator, and instead of writing Python 3, and then you just call that directly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah. So one thing we can do together is we can go through and update the package, update the structure of this repository to be a package, which actually
Yeah.
doesn't take that long to do. The only problem with doing this is it creates a huge diff, and so if you cold pull request people, I'm like, hey, I package your code, they're like, what's going on here? I have no idea.
All right.
It's all red and all green in the diff, and it's really hard. So you have to sort of go step by step or walk them through it very carefully.
Yeah, but if we do it together, like I'm seeing what you're doing, so
Yeah. So if
it
we do it
it can
together, then you'll kind of
go
get what's
through.
going on.
Yeah, sure.
So there's also like several steps because there's tons of different bits to packaging, and you can just do a couple of them, or you can go the whole way.
Hmm.
And anyway, then I was like looking in the source just to try and figure out like what's going on, and I think I needed to look inside like this dictionaries, and then maybe there's some JSON files that seems like you're having these automatically get built up over time, and this is some curated stuff that you're just using as examples, or yeah, and
Yeah.
then and then
Uh,
this is Python code. And then I looked in this, I was like, oh, this is great. I can teach Tiago about all of this cool PathLab stuff because you're using like the OS functionality. And there's some
mhm.
higher level tools that basically can make this all into a one-liner.
All right.
So
Yeah.
so
So what I'm doing now, Charlie, is that well, whenever I run for a new ORCID, sometimes like there's an institution that is not doesn't have an external ID on ORCID, so I am creating it as I go. So it looks up the dictionary, and if it's not there, it prompts me in the command line to ask, "Hey, what's the ORCID? What's the Wikidata QID for University of blah blah?" And then I
yeah,
fill it up, and then it goes updated in the dictionary. And I don't know if there's a better solution for that, but
so like there is a future where I think they're going to start putting these ROR IDs. So like here's where I work at Harvard Medical School, and this is just like
yeah,
free text right now. And there's no like ROR for Harvard Medical School
yeah.
that's on my record that you can download. Even though if you go to the ROR website, like there is something appropriate for Harvard. So
Hmm.
okay, well this is also a little bit tricky because ROR only assigns to top level institutions. So Harvard University kind of gets an ROR, but Harvard Medical School, which
Sure.
is like one of its domains, is not going to get one. And yeah, definitely the departments and the faculties within and the labs, they don't get RORs either, but they do get Wikidata entries. So this is another reason why Wikidata is awesome. So, this is cool. Okay, so you've got this. Yeah, and then all right. So I didn't end up reading through all of this. I figured we'd chat about it, but then these other functions, yeah. So you're using some kind of like relative absolute imports. So we can maybe improve that a little bit with packaging.
Hmm.
Um, so all this code is sort of living in the like main body of the Python module. So it's typically
Yeah,
good to kind of wrap that up in a main function, which
yeah.
for like Python people, I feel like I'm becoming the institution. I always thought it was kind of fun because Python just is so much nicer and easier to do than like Java, which I've learned very carefully
Hmm.
before. In Java, you have to do public static void main string args for like everything you
Yeah.
want to. And this is just like this awful boilerplate that ruins the whole experience of learning how to program and doing programming. And so now I'm kind of realizing, okay, well, there's kind of a reasoning behind that. At least with the
Yeah.
Python stuff, wrapping everything up with a function like main is really good.
Hmm.
One, because it lets you do these entry points and make one of these vanity command line argument things, which we'll definitely do together. And then also, it just kind of like reminds you that you can do sort of anything you want in Python and it's magical, but there's all these problems with like variable
Hmm.
scoping that happens when people write stuff in the main body of the module. So this is sort of like a simple way to kind of remind you not to mess around with too much global state.
Yeah. One thing that I was wondering, Charlie, is that if we package it, then it's hard to update the JSONs, the dictionaries, or not, or is there ways? Because the dictionaries are kind of part of the package, right? So if I just
Yeah, Python
uh,
packages can have data inside them. They can have JSON files. You can put all sorts of crazy nonsense. Now, if you upload to PyPI, there is sort of a limit on how much,
yeah,
weight, how heavy the package can be. But
it's
this
not
can
much
sort of
about like receiving the package, but about like updating it. I mean, in the way that I'm working now, I'm kind of every time I run it, I update the package, kind of,
yeah. And
right?
so this is like a really interesting workflow where the code isn't sort of an end product that you want to send to people necessarily. There's like some resources that are dynamic that go with it.
Yeah.
And so when you're working on a project alone, like it's fine to have it and maintain it this way. And when you package the code, you can also install it in what's called like editable mode. So it's basically the same
Hmm.
sort of workflow, except Python knows a little bit more about how the code looks and how it should be run. Um, Looking forward, if you really want to, make this possible for other people to run and update, you can take these files and you can sort of externalize them, and then you can say, hey, these files exist, but you're welcome to sort of point to a different resource file if you want to like make your own, or some additional resources if you want to be able to like add your own extra stuff or override some of the stuff that's in it already. I mean, luckily this data is very simple, right? It's just keys and values inside a dictionary. So thinking about overriding and updating and swapping out for other stuff is quite simple.
Yep.
But we're not going to get to that today. Like the point isn't to make this into a massive software engineering project. It's just to like put a couple bells and whistles on it to make it easier for other people to use, just in case they want to.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to start with packaging it, or do you want to start with this stuff about PathLab, which I wanted to show you?
Yeah, I think the PathLab is cool. The other stuff, it's good. And then we can proceed to packaging if we have time. Then yeah.
So I'm going to do sort of the Martha Stewart approach. Now, I've already actually gone through and thought about this and updated the code, but I'm going to do it again in front of you so you can see how I thought about writing it.
All right.
Okay, so I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new sort of branch on here. So let's make like a really trivial change. Prepare for PathLab. Let's do from PathLab. I'm not crazy enough to do my coding inside the web browser, so I'm gonna hit like propose changes, and this is gonna automatically make a fork and a new branch for me. So I'm gonna just switch.
Oh, right.
I know this is totally tacky the way that I do programming, but it works.
What have you done exactly? Like you changed on the GitHub?
Yeah. When you're on GitHub, you can export people's files, and there's this edit button. Even if you're not somebody who's like one of the editors, maintainers of the repository, you see it says edit the file in a fork of this project. So it automatically forks it for you. And then, you know, this is really good for like tiny changes. Like, hey, I'm just reading this repo and I see a typo, and I'm going to fix that typo right now because I might as well, so somebody else doesn't have to later. And so then I sort of X'd out of it quickly, but it also brings you immediately to the do you want to start a pull request dialog. So I skipped that for now. All right, so back to the battle, right? So now here's my GitHub desktop because the command line scares me, right? And then I'm going to figure out if I have a project for this open already. Where would this be? I have no idea where I would have put this. All right, let's just try opening it like from scratch. So here's all my actual work stuff. Let's try open. And what do we call it? PyORCIDator. Cool. All right, here we go. It's time to actually write some code together. This over. Let's see. Maybe I can just reuse. Ew. How do I have all these old Python 2 things? My goodness. Get with it, Apple. Stop putting that stuff in here. All right, skip this. We don't need an interpreter, right? Yeah, we do. All right, here, let's use the Indra one. Python 3.10, that's good. All right, here we go. We're in business. So we've got this all Python. So the first thing that I like, anytime I have data inside my package, I always do kind of the same thing at the top. I like make a variable called here. And so, so this path class is sort of like a nicer stateful representation of paths within your file system. And it's smart, and it takes care of like knowing all this Windows or Unix kind of stuff. So another secret thing you have to know is every Python file has a variable called file available, like a global variable. And that actually has the path of the file. So we're going so this makes it really quite convenient to reference stuff in sort of a relative way. But we're going to use PathLab to sort of make that a little bit easier on us too. So typically, like you can, inside the path class, you can put like, users cthoit dev PyORCIDator something, right? You can put like whatever path and then start working with it. So this takes like relative paths, takes normal paths. Anyway, now we're just gonna like get rid of all that relative path stuff by like resolving.
Yeah, just a comment. So Leila mentioned that it's for the bioregistry group. Hola, saludos desde Mexico. If you come quickly to the StreamYard thing, I took out your screen and you can see that.
Hold on. Sorry, my all 16 of my CPUs are maxed out right now.
Oh no.
Oh, hold up. Go.
Yeah.
Hi.
So that's the Voilà. So that's the fun thing about doing these things on StreamYard, that people can join and like see what we are doing, and perhaps also learn as I am learning now. So maybe we can come back there. I will add you back to the screen as soon as
Hold on.
you
I'm gonna
change. Oh,
give me 1 second. My screen
of
sharing
course.
is maxing out all of my CPUs. So something is terribly wrong with my computer these days, because this shouldn't be using all of my CPU. This is a modern
Yeah.
laptop with, not the base specs. So maybe it's time to like reinstall the operating system. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
It,
let's
I
see.
always get a bit anxious when these things start to happen. Like it's not it. At least in my experience, it never crashes like from one day to the other. There are like these little signals that computers start making that then you then you suddenly have to lose a full day to just like reinstall everything.
Yeah. Gosh, so the kernel task is using 7 of my processors. PyCharm is using 4 of them. It's like I'm just using this as a text editor. I guess it's time to give up and go old school, right? And go back into like Vim. Maybe that'll fix everything. Yeah, background test. There we go. So this is the problem. Is PyCharm decides, sometimes, hey, we're going to index everything, so we're going to use all of your CPUs until we're done, and there's no way to tell it not to act that way. All right, sorry. So let's start this again. This time with this very simple interface. All right. So now we're going to try this again, just from Atom instead.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try opening project in here. It's still really hot. My goodness.
I think you. I don't know if you're standing really still or if you froze, but I think you froze here.
I must have frozen then. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I mean, you don't make any movements. You just like I can hear, but
Okay, can you see the screen? Is it?
yeah, I can see the screen.
All right, then let's just go with that for a little bit. So anyway, I know, okay, we just took a
Yeah.
little bit of screen. So we're talking about pathlib. And so we've got kind of our path based on the file, and we're going to sort of resolve that. So one of the tricks
Mm-hmm.
that I do is I go to parent. So you can always jump up one directory higher with parent. So now this variable here is going to represent the dictionaries directory. So here's the next trick that you can do is you can do here.glob. So this is like this kind of glob path matching. And so you can do something like this. So this is going to like list all of the files that are JSON files. So we can do something
Mm-hmm.
for path in. So this is going to represent path objects that are all of the JSON paths that are inside the directory, which represents here. The next thing you want to do is you want to check something about these.
Mm-hmm.
We've got keyword, we've got some open things. So anyway, we can just go ahead and do path.open, right? So this is one way of doing it. You can do with path.open as file, and then you can do JSON.load file. And so this can almost get everything that you did already, because you were doing some like listing of the directory, you were doing some checking that it's a JSON file. It's kind of already gotten by the globbing, and then you're going to build
All
up
right.
this dicts. So we can start using this this loop to sort of build up the dicts. So I guess we want to do like data equals this. And then the cool thing about the path object is it kind of knows some of the stuff that you did down here. Like you split, you got rid of the file extension, you kept the name. So this is called like .stem. So that's already available. It already does all that parsing for us. So we can
All
do
right.
dicts path.stem equals data. Now, if you look at this, we've basically written a one-liner on each of these. But let's change this around a little bit. So there's one way you can open up a file like this, but if you're just going to read the whole file, sometimes you can do path.read text. I think it's read text. It should be something like that. So if you do path.read text, you can do json.load_s inside that, and now we've managed to make this into a one-liner for loading up our JSON. Okay, so now we've got a dictionary getting built up with one line.
Nice.
So
That's
the
that's
idea
very
of
clean.
text is now we're going to just turn this into a dictionary comprehension, where the keys are path.stem, the values are load up that path, open it, do all that stuff, and now we basically just took all of this, and I'm going to delete that, and we're done in one line.
Huh. Cool.
So not bad to start. And arguably, this is a little bit easier to think about what's going on, assuming you're familiar with what glob is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the path.stem. I'm pretty sure it's stem. I could be wrong since now we're coding without an IDE. It might be name. But anyway, it's one of those two, right? And so that gets the
Yeah.
job. Yeah, so that's kind of the first. So let's see. I've already made this update in the other thing, so I can just make the pull request from that. And the interesting thing is now this is sort of like extensible. I mean, it was already extensible. So if you had more JSON files, they're already going to become available here. Maybe one other thing I would do is to use this magical variable all. Have you seen this one before?
No, you know.
Have you ever done like from OS import star or like from anything import star?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can sort of modify the behavior of import star by setting this variable called all. So whatever is inside here is going to be the things that get imported when you import all. So you make a string that corresponds to the name of the variable in the module.
All right. Okay.
So the idea
So this
is,
is what all is. So it won't load here, but it will load dicts.
yeah.
All
And
right.
also remember JSON and capital P path are also imported into sort of the global
True.
scope inside this module. So if you import star from, okay, all, maybe we want to rename this because all is a little bit conflicting with a couple other things. But anyway, you would get, so like JSON and path and here and dicts. And you don't want to get all that stuff if you import star. To be honest, you shouldn't really be doing import star anyway, but just in case, we want to be like careful. This is also like most programming languages have this sort of concept of like exporting stuff out of the module. Maybe people familiar with R are thinking about that as well. You have to be very explicit about what are the things that get exported in each one when you define an R package. Okay, so that's updating the all thing, and so everything should basically work the same way, assuming you're just importing the dicts. All right, so the other thing is now, let's see, how do we go about doing this? Let's sort of build it up from scratch, and then at the end I'll show you about sort of this cookie cutter package. So to make this into a proper Python package, we need to sort of make an extra folder inside it. This folder inside the source folder should actually match the name of the package itself. So PyORCIDator. And so this is going to be actually the name of the thing that gets imported when you do like import PyORCIDator. It can kind of be a little bit different from the actual name of the repository. Typically, it's better if they're not different, though, because you don't want people to get confused. Okay, so I'm just going to take all the stuff that's in here and stick it in there. Just simple copy paste. We don't have to change any of the code, how any of it looks. Then we're going to add a new file. We need two files right now to make this all work. We're going to do setup.cfg and pyproject.toml. Unfortunately, the Python world is sort of in the growing pains stage. Python packaging wasn't built in the beginning, and it's not perfect. I'd say maybe the best kind of packaging system of any programming language right now is Rust's, because it does a really good job with configuration, and then it also kind of has the best dependency management. Anyway, Python's getting there. It's never going to have as good of a thing as Rust does, but we'll just have to live with that. Okay, so give me a second, and I'm going to basically kind of copy paste some stuff from other places where I've done this, because You don't have to know all this stuff off the top of your head. You basically just have to see it once, understand that it's there, and then look it up if you ever need it again.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into pyproject.toml, and we're gonna add basically 3 lines.
What is a TOML file?
What is a TOML file?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not happy with this, but TOML is called Tom's obvious markup language, or Tom's like
All right.
minimalist. It's Tom's minimalist markup language. It's very similar to the INI CFG configuration files.
All right.
There's a couple different things in it. I'm not really sure why they didn't just use like YAML. I think that probably
Yeah.
would be better. But whatever, they chose this. This is what they're going to go with. It seems to be like it's got some extra extensible stuff. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so pyproject.toml, basically we're just going to remind like modern packaging systems like pip and setup tools that this project is going to get built with setup tools and wheels. And it's going to use setup tools, whole back end and front end. And we don't have to really think anymore about this. Let's just say this is like, accept this. If you want to know more about packaging, there's a couple of resources I can send along to you.
Sure.
So yeah. All right, so that's it. We don't have to come back to pyproject.toml. Now we're actually going to put all the metadata about our package in setup.cfg. So how do we do that? Can you still see this all right? I just kind of changed this a little.
Yes.
All right, so first thing is we do is we're going to start with metadata. So the name of this package is PyORCIDator. The version, we're going to start with, what do you want to start with the version number? Maybe
0.01. Yeah.
1. I would start with this, and I just put like -dev at the end. I want to take dev off when I make a release, so people know if they're using like a released code or not. And then we've got description. So work with ORCID and Wikidata. I'm just going to let you go ahead and change that whenever you're working on your own. Okay, then we've got long description. And this is cool because we can just say, hey, please import it from the README.
Oh, nice.
And we have to actually, by default, it wants restructured text. So we have to remind it this is a markdown file. So we'll give it the content type text markdown. Okay, so let's see. We're going to do like minimal possible. So there's other stuff in here. We can add information about like the location. We can add author information, license information. Maybe we'll do license information. What license did you pick? Okay, MIT. And then license file equals license. Okay, so this this first one, license, this is the SPDX identifier for the MIT license. And the second one, this is the actual file in the repository that the license is in. Okay, let's keep going. Now we're going to add some like options. This is the meat of all of the packaging stuff. So first, we're going to do install requires. All right, so now you're going to learn requirements.txt is wrong. Do not use that ever. There's only situations when you should use this, right? And this is not one of them. When you want to make code that's reusable by other people, you want to have the packaging know about the requirements. So the other problem is you also don't want to necessarily pin all the versions like this. Unless there's a really good reason to pin a version, you want to kind of leave them unpinned, especially when you're using like really popular stuff like requests and Sparkle wrapper. Because if you pin it to one thing and then people have another version of that pinned in another piece of software, then you can't have them both installed at the same time. That's a little bit of a problem. Okay, but anyway, once we have this, we can, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can get rid of that requirements.txt. The only situation when you actually do want a requirements.txt is when you're doing like a web application that's like a one file Python thing, and it's not actually meant to be packaged. So, but I say that all code should be packaged, so you should never have to use requirements.txt. All right, next thing we need to do, we need to override a wrong setting. So, like this shouldn't be this way. No code is zip safe. Just assume that that's like, just accept that. Now we would do include package data equals true. This is so like if there's JSON files and anything that's like not a Python file can also stay inside like your JSON.
All right.
So this is important. you can set, there's all sorts of other stuff we can set here, but we're going to just kind of skip around. So next is, where is my code? So this is important. So the first thing we do is packages. And so basically we're using the standard source format, so we can just tell it like, just do what you're supposed to do, just find it, because we're using the standard format. And then just to remind it like one extra time, there's packagedir, and then this is kind of hard to explain. So inside this field is supposed to be a list of things that are delimited by an equal sign. But since the code is like already in the standard format, we're not going to use something in the key here. So again, I'm just going to hand wave this one, and then we're going to move on. It's going to do the job.
Yeah, right.
All right. And then we're gonna add one more thing. We do options.packages.find and where equals source. So I'm gonna hand wave again and say like, basically you need all three of these things to make it find the code in the source directory, and to know that the name of this corresponds to the name up here, and that's how you, like, everything inside there can get imported. And with that, we're done. Your code's now importable. So
All right.
I'm gonna switch what window I'm sharing, and I'm gonna prove it, right? So let me open up one of these things. That. Okay, now you should see my console.
So we have two people watching us now. So if these two people want to say hello in the chat, feel free to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And thanks for joining. Yeah.
So yeah, let's go into PyORCIDator. I hope that the transparency isn't like a problem. I think it looks. Oh wait, it's not sharing yet.
It's not sharing yet. Yeah.
Here it is. All right. Is the transparency a problem or no? That's good. Okay.
No, it's good.
Okay, so now I'm in the PyORCIDator thing, so I'm just going to do LA. Here's all the files inside here. We've got our project toml, we've got our setup configuration, we've got our source folder. And basically, anytime you've got a setup.cfg and you've got a PyProject toml that says, hey, look, you can use that setup.cfg because it's got this backend equals setup tools dot blah, blah, blah. You can pip install dot. So normally you pip install something, but today we're pip installing what's in the current directory. Let's see if this all works. And it's going to install the build dependencies. And so that's the wheel and setup tools. And then it's going to install those things that you asked for. And we're all done. This warning has nothing to do with what we did. It just says, hey, you should upgrade this version of this. So if I go into Python, I can do import PyORCIDator. Oh, no. So something has gone wrong. I know what's gone wrong.
Right. What?
I think it just messed up my I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Well, let me look back into this and see if I forgot something.
Well, it wouldn't be a live demo if everything worked out fine. So
yeah, you know what? I think the problem is Atom is turning all of my spaces into tabs because it thinks I'm a Java programmer for some reason. And Python does not like these tabs. You should use consistently use spaces. Actually, I might be wrong about that. But you should be really consistent, and people are expecting spaces mostly. All right, skip. All right, so.
But I trust it should work. I mean,
no, don't ever trust stuff should work. If it's not working in front of you, it's not real. It's a lie. All right. So we're gonna do what God intends, and we're gonna edit things in Vim. Here we go. Let's see if that fixes it. I feel like I forgot something, and that's why we're all going wrong.
Well, we mentioned your cookie cutter. Maybe I don't know. We can try and use it, or
here's the thing.
Or too much complicated.
No, it's not too complicated. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on in the cookie cutter. I don't want to explain all of it all at the same time. So we can do that as a next step if this is all broken.
I've actually used I've packaged code before in Python and used cookie cutters, but it's always like a big hand wave. Like I'm packaging this thing and yeah, I'm just trusting. And if there's a bug, I try to solve just the little bug, but I never really understood what's going on. So this is really great to now have a bit more of understanding what I'm doing. Yeah.
I think it's best to start with the cookie cutter template. It's hard to take a project and like shove it into one after the fact, but we can
Yeah.
manage that. It's possible.
All right. All right. Yeah.
All right. So I made a new virtual environment. We're gonna do it directly in there, and then we're gonna hope that this fixing the spaces solve
Mm-hmm.
it. So now we're going to go into Python again. Now we're going to import PyORCID. Okay, that worked.
Oh,
So
sure. That's good.
annoying space issue. But yeah, so let's see what's inside PyORCIDator. Can I do something with it already, or maybe that's not the intended use?
So probably not, because it was just calling the import.py function.
So way back in the
Uh,
day, you were saying let's do Python 3 source, and now it would be PyORCIDator.
yeah.
And then what was it? It was
Import
look up. Oh, import info.
some import info. Yeah, and then an ORCID ID.
All right,
If you
let's.
hit enter, you should ask. It asks for an ORCID ID, or
Ooh,
yeah.
okay. Let me get one for you. Let's test it out on one that's obvious. That's definitely not in.
Yeah, but
Orchid.
I mean, it works if it is on Wikidata too. It just
Oh,
updates
okay.
the information.
Yeah. I wanted to see if I could
Hopefully.
add one. So okay,
Yeah. All
let's
right. All right.
let's go ahead. This is my orchid. So let's see what
Yeah.
happens with this one. All right. We've got a little bit of a
Your degree.
Python problem.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm pretty sure
Because
that my data
it
has
was
a.
importing that dict from the. All right.
Did we break? Oh, maybe remember when I said I can't remember if this is name or stem?
Yeah. Maybe.
Probably stem. Let me run that again and see if it works. Okay,
Yes.
is the QID for Doctor of Philosophy? Yep. Okay, no such file or directory. Okay. So here we've got another function that's actually looking into a hard-coded file path. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're getting
Because
to a little trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that really quick, right? I know what the fix is. We need to
all right.
use this same style of relative imports with this here. So I guess we might as well switch screens so you can see me doing it.
Yeah, I think ideally, I- I'd like this dictionary to be like community curated. So if you add this in your place, I want so maybe ideally I would have some external JSON file or whatever that people would when running it like
Mhm.
update this database somewhere and get it back. But this is
All
like
right,
yeah in the future, I
let's
guess.
let's implement that right now because it's going to take us 30 seconds.
Oh
Should we
yeah,
do?
okay.
No, every time I claim something's only going to take 30 seconds. It's like 2 hours later.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
think it's a good estimate. It's like 30 times the time that you expect.
all right.
30 seconds, I think it takes 15 minutes.
So let's go into this. So the file where we had this issue is helper.py, right? Somewhere in here,
Yeah,
there's like a
it's
hard
the
code.
add key. I think it's, yeah,
All right. So the problem is
oh,
this,
there.
this kind of like is a dictionary. So the easy fix is, well, first we want to do this whole path lib thing at the top. So let's do
But
that.
I think the error was before, perhaps. It
No,
was in the,
the error happened because the file path is wrong now because we
yeah,
changed
yeah, yeah. But
it.
I think it was, oh, yeah, okay, okay, all right. It was
So let's do this one more time.
true, okay.
And then okay, so currently here corresponds to the root of the whole package. So the file that we want is going to be here.join path dictionaries. Ooh, thank you, autocomplete. And we wanted degree.json.
Yeah,
Okay.
this all.py, what was doing was that it's loading all these different JSONs as nested dicts in the dicts file.
Okay, so instead we can do from dot dictionaries dot all import dicts.
Yeah,
And now we can say in this place where it's loading up this degree dictionary, let's see where that went again. So you want to open this as F and then, oh, so you're writing, this function right here is writing to it.
yeah.
Did it
So
curation?
the original dict name is the yeah.
Okay. So here's what we can do.
It's like degree or institutions is the JSON thing there.
So yeah, actually, we don't have to import the dict. What I was doing would be the right thing. So now what we can do
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
is we can have it. Sorry, I'm jumping around a ton. Yeah, so we can just do degree path dot open w plus. I think this is going to break, by the way, because I don't think w plus does the right thing when it comes to JSON worlds. Maybe not w plus, just w. All right, so let's try this again. Maybe this is good enough because we're not going to run into this other issue. Sorry, it's not a good way to jump between different. Let me just go back to the entire screen. All right. So we've got this in the background. We've got this in the front. Let's try that one more time.
Yeah.
Now I have to remember what my ORCID is again. Hold on. Let's just put that into the command. Okay. So yes, and now it's going to. Okay, JSON's not defined. All right, we forgot to import JSON.
All right.
Good. Problem solved. Let's try that one more time. Okay, now we're getting JSON decode error. Load read text. All right, so what happened? We messed up. We accidentally opened the file and then we got an error. So let's just fix that. Oh.
Yeah, it's the W plus that you didn't write anything, so you just erased the JSON thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one way to sort of make this W plus thing work a little better is rather than using a JSON to use like a TSV, because the if you append to a JSON dictionary, there's always that like last line that needs to get.
So I was not. What I was doing is that this add key function there, it's returning the dictionary. I think it's not. It's if you come back to the code, I think it's not like a method. It's just it's hacked. I mean, but in the import in the helper.py where we were just like moving around stuff,
we've got this add key.
Is the add key, and it returns the dictionary. It should return the dictionary at least.
Oh, okay. So it's not returning anything. So
yeah,
should I do it to return dictionary?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right.
Okay, well, this doesn't actually get used. But okay, so it's.
Yeah, and then it should return the dictionary to this dict's original name or whatever that is written to the.
Okay, so
it should return the dict that is written to the JSON.
Yeah,
there was a recent pull request there, and I think that perhaps there is something that is.
Okay, this
brokish.
Yeah, having some kind of way of maintaining files through like interaction in the Python console is not so easy. So I think you did a good job. Let's try it one more time. What I'm going to do before this is I'm actually going to make a commit. So now we've sort of done some massive reorganization. We've done some code up. So reorganize. I'm not good with commit messages when there's really big, complicated commits. All right. You know what the problem is this whole doctor philosophy thing. We got to get rid of that. All right, none type's not subscriptable. So now we're moving on.
That's another issue in the.
All right, so we've got we've got disambiguated organization, disambiguated source.
Yeah,
so,
I think what happens that there is no disambiguated organization. So I thought I had solved that somewhere someday, but.
So why don't we update this code a little bit? So let's say if disambiguated source in.
Actually, it is, but it's like it's equals to. It's just okay, all right. Because a disambiguated organization is none in the ORCID file.
Okay.
It's not a list. It's just none. Is the value none. There's a sample.json that is like it's a hackish way to. This is the ORCID output. so you can just like kind of figure out the things.
Oh,
It's
okay. So it's filled up with the content that
yeah,
we're looking at from
it's
mine.
being pulled out from ORCID. So I just like
All right, and we're looking for stuff about organization. Okay, we've got, oh, there's going to be a couple of these.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
so
null. It's null. Yeah.
okay, it's null. So disambiguate organization is null. And so, all right, so that means we have to check that this is true. And we want to make sure that that is not null. Okay, so this is going to check that it's available. This is going to check that it's not null. And this is actually going to go inside it and look for something. Let's just do this just for just to double check. We're gonna get instead of key it, because if it's got another null value, then this will, or if it's missing, this will still work the way it's intended. Okay, one more time. This time with feeling. Okay, none types not iterable. Okay, so oh, sorry, this one's supposed to come first. I feel like very like a fish out of water programming in this text editor instead of an IDE. Okay, is this right? Unibond, hell yeah. Yes. Master of Science, yes. Bachelor of Science, sure. Northeastern, yep, that's where I went for my bachelor. Harvard Medical School, that looks right. Ooh.
Yeah.
Fascinating. What am I looking at now? This is like quick
Yeah.
text or?
This the quick statements. I think yeah, there's some spacing issue clearly, but then there's this URL that if you click, it should go to quick statements with the statements to add.
To do this. Wow. Okay, we're not going to do that for mine because my ORCID, my Wikidata is already filled out very completely.
Yeah. But maybe you can click it just to see what or show what it does.
It won't start running it immediately. It'll like ask. All right, so let's open up Firefox.
Yeah, it should open immediately. That's a good. I'll just add it to the issue tracker.
Okay. Oh, okay. I hope this might be a problem now, right? Because it's it's going to add some duplicate statements.
It's on quick statements. It's good that it doesn't duplicate anything.
That's good.
It's good and bad. The thing is that if you run it, it will just say, okay, this statement already exists. But the deal is, if you want to add multiple statements with the same values, it kind of breaks.
Oh,
So
okay.
you cannot add, for example, that you did your undergraduate, master's, and PhD in the same university, and then have different starts and end times. This breaks, and this is a problem with quick statements.
Oh,
But if you can just run and see, it won't break your record. You can just like run and stop it very quickly just to see what it does with the first two or three things, right? You see, it does this done, and then like this exclamation point
uh-huh.
dot. So
Oh, let's check errors. All right, it's not giving me
no.
anything.
If you go over the done, like with your mouse, and it will show you like the statement already existed with the hash number, whatever.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
good. So
But then
let's
the reference was updated. Now, like ORCID says that you are human, and then this is was added to Wikidata.
I'm not human. I'm dancer. It's a killer's
Yeah,
joke.
you
All right.
you need a reference for that.
I think if I start defacing Wikipedia with, or sorry, Wikidata with like music jokes, they'll kick me off of it. All right, let's try this with the new ORCID that nobody like that doesn't exist already. So
Yeah.
I don't remember I don't know who any of these are. So MD PhD, okay, someone who's way overqualified. Good for them. Icon School of Medicine in Mount Sinai. That
Yeah.
looks right. Do I need to? Okay, there's no default. Okay, Bachelor of Arts. That sounds right. Amherst College. Brigham and Women's. All right. So now I'm going to copy this. We're going to quick statement it up. Okay, so this is Sandra Santagata. He's one of the PIs in LSP. So I think all this information's likely available already. Oh, I can hit run. Yeah. Okay. Good. So like no big surprises here.
All right, and then you have multiple pages there, so you're just on the first page, but there should be statements in the other. There's a next button or not?
I just
Yeah.
increased it.
All right. All right.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Cool.
Oh, there
So
was some. Yeah, there's a little bug there, but it's
it's you mean because it's kind of stuck on this last one? Oh,
yeah,
unknown.
it's the reference. It's a known text just because it's not in quotes. It's not quoted properly.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it looks like it's double
appreciated
quoted
that.
actually.
Yeah, I think that there was some like yeah
Okay. Well, this looks pretty good. By the way,
yeah
so did you know that Python actually has a way of opening up a web page automatically?
yeah. I actually did like sys. I think it was something that I called the command line and then run xdg/open and then open it. But if there's a way to do it like with just one command, that's better.
Now I'm forgetting what it is. Python web open. I feel like it's like import website or web page. Oh, it's web browser. Okay, so import web browser, web browser dot open.
Whatever. All right.
Yeah. So so you can maybe add a flag to automatically open up the page
Hmm?
with this quick statements thing. All right. So actually, we're in like a really good situation, but I want to show you like another cool thing because remember we're like doing this Python 3 source, whatever, whatever, whatever. But actually, what
Sure.
we want to be
Yeah.
doing is we want to be running this like from the package itself. So the way to run from the package itself is to do Python 3 or Python dash M, and then you do the name of the package, PyORCIDator
Hmm.
dot import info. Okay, and then if we do that, it's gonna okay, we're going to run into one issue is we have to fix all of these relative imports. So we're going to go through and we're going to do that
All
really
right.
fast. It's very simple. So we've got Wikidata lookup. That's like the name of this thing. So we just put a dot in front of it to remind you that it's in the same directory as this one. Same thing with
All right.
dictionary. Um, oh, look at this. We actually do have an import star here. So maybe let's just change that to dicts while we're here and looking at it. We
All
need to
right.
import info. We need to change that from helper to dot helper. We need to go in here. All right, good. I think we're all ready to go. Let's try that one more time. Great. Um, let's,
Yeah, I was asking for input for the
okay, I'm not going to do this whole thing again, but look, now you see we're running it from the Python interface. All right,
yeah.
so that's like,
Well, it should have been updated. There was some error before that it didn't update the dictionary. But
oh,
yeah, but
let's
yeah,
see.
I'll try
Oh,
and fix that later too.
looks like degrees got updated. No, no, look what happened. Degree, the degree dictionary now has all the
Oh,
institutions inside it. So there
oh,
might be a bug
yeah,
somewhere, maybe a typo. Um,
yeah,
Okay, but anyway, we can fix that sort of offline. Let's just try a
yeah,
couple
yeah,
of things. All right, so it's nice to have Python dash M PyORCIDator, but what you really want to do is PyORCIDator, right?
mm-hmm.
And then have some stuff happen here. So there's sort of two steps to
All
getting.
right,
First is to like use a little bit more of a nice system for the command line interface, and the second is to use entry points. So let's do the command line interface first because this won't take too long. So what we do is we come into this, and remember I was talking about like wrapping all that code up in a main function. Like
yeah,
doing that in practice is really simple. You just do like def main at the top, and then indent everything.
yeah.
All right. So
In
now,
files, there is this like if int equals to yeah, if name equals to. I never really understood what's happening there, but
let me explain because this is really cool. Remember I was telling you about like this magic variable called file, which tells you
yeah.
what the name of the file is.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a magic variable called name,
Mm-hmm.
and that has like that's going to be called import info when you run this as a script. Or sorry, when you import it. So like, let's say that you're in some other Python file, you need to do from PyORCIDator import underscore info.
Mm-hmm.
when you do that, the name variable inside the import info module, like, because remember, the module itself is an object. You interact with it the same way you interact with other objects. It has this name inside it. And that's going to be the same as the name of the Python file that it came from. This makes sense, right?
All right. Yeah.
All right. But there's one secret situation when this name gets set somewhere else. And it's exactly what we just did up here, is when you do this python-m PyORCIDator.import info. So when you're running this Python file as a script instead of importing it, then this name gets set to the string _main. So what tricky stuff is going on here? It basically says, if the name of this is main, it means that we're running this as a script, and I want you to run the main function. However, if you're just importing this file, which is called import info, name will be equal to something else, and you're not going to run this code.
All right.
So this is really good. It means that you can have some extra stuff floating around in there. It makes it a lot more safe. It also just makes it easier to think about, assuming you know what this kind of weird line is. All right, so that's step one. Next step is to use a really powerful tool for building command line interfaces, which is called Quick. I love this. I'm telling everybody to use it. There's a couple different ways to do this, but I think this is the best. First, we're gonna have to pip install Quick. And at the same time, we're gonna go into our setup.cfg and we're gonna add that to the install requires. We're gonna hope that this whole tab thing gets fixed later. All right, so Quick is quite simple. Basically, you take your main function and then you put this decorator. Have you ever used decorators before in Python?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're using Flask and I think a data. I use a data class somewhere in the
classes. Yeah, this is definitely a super common one. All right, all you do is you wrap this main function with click.commands, and this makes all sorts of magic happen. So let me just like do it again just to show you that we didn't really break anything yet. Like, it's still going to run the same way, but now we've got sort of Click magic that we can use. So there's like a million different things we can do. First is we can do click.option, and then we can turn this ORCID ID into an option. And why should the ORCID be an option? Well, you actually kind of have implicitly made it an option. Like, you can put it, you don't have to. Maybe it's better if we use one of these flags for the option.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so there's a couple other things. I think you can do prompt equals true. And I think you can, this automatically makes a prompt for you if it's missing. So then we can say help, like the ORCID ID to look up. Okay, so now if we run this without anything, it's going to prompt us for it. Cool. Otherwise, we can do ORCID, and then like this is exactly kind of how it was set up before, except now we didn't have to write the code for the prompt. Somehow that's better.
All right, all right.
Right? Yeah. All right, so basically everything works the same now. Good, so that's like step 2. And so I'm gonna save this one more time. And then the last step is we're gonna go back into the setup.configuration. We're gonna add a new setting inside here. And you're gonna see that I've been cheating the whole time and just looking at my old settings. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna copy paste the old settings because you don't have to remember everything. So let's say we want PyORCIDator. Sorry, every time I write that, I'm like, I'm gonna make a typo. It's so embarrassing. All right, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but for now, let's just like say the .import info and then the main function inside it. Like that's gonna be the thing that gets mapped to PyORCIDator. Okay, so anytime we change the entry points, we have to reinstall the package. So let's do that. Python m pip install.e. So it's not going to have to install any new dependencies, luckily, but it is going to add that entry point for us. Oh. So now we can do PyORCIDator, and if we don't do anything, it should ask us for the ORCID. Great.
Nice.
Okay, now, what if we don't know how this thing works? People usually expect there to be some kind of help message, right? And so Click automatically generates that for you, and it just does it really good. So this is why I like Click.
Okay, that's good.
ArcParse kind of does the same thing, but yeah. All right, let's just go kind of next level though, because now this works and it's packaged And now it's kind of like you can pip install it and then just start going with PyORCIDator and like do the stuff you want. But there's like several different command line interfaces that you actually are going to want to use. So having it just be mapped to this import info is maybe not the best. So let's make sort of a multi-part command line interface. So what we're going to do for that is I'm going to make a new Python file for you. I'm going to call it CLI.py. And now we're going to import click, and we're going to do dev. Actually, we're just going to do main. We're going to call it CLI. And we're going to make a click.group. And so this is going to group several command line interfaces together. So now we're going to do from.import. Import, we're going to have to name this import info, right? It's too much the same word. Okay, so import info is a Python module, right? Inside import info is a function called main, so we can like use that. And so we can do add command. And so now we can sort of have this be a sub command. So this is a little goofy. So let me show you how this looks in reality. And we're going to do this thing again. If name equals main, we're going to run CLI. Okay, so back to this. Is this all making sense? I know I'm going really fast right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think so.
So now if we do python-m PyORCIDator.cli, and then I'm going to do help. No, nothing happens. What did I forget? Name equals main, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
You didn't install it again. I don't know if it's necessary or... Oh, because you used the dash E, so it should be...
What is the way to do this properly? I did this wrong. It should be a capital G group. There we go. All right. Yeah, so this is not actually looking so great right now. So what we want to do first is we probably want to write some documentation. So what does this function in here do? It, import info from ORCID for Wikidata. Okay, so this doc string is going to get propagated into the help text here. And that the fact that this is called main actually isn't so great. So maybe we want to rename this to something else. So either it picks up the name of the function, or you can give it a name here. I don't know what. Maybe we're gonna give it the name because we want the name to be import. However, you can't use the word import in Python because it's a keyword. So we're gonna call it import. And now this should change. Oh, sorry, I'm pointing at my screen. You can't see me doing that. Anyway, now it should show import. So if we do PyORCIDator import, and then we do help, we're gonna get the import function. All right. So now we've basically started putting together a sort of extensible command line that has several different parts to it. Maybe they're not related to each other. Maybe they're loosely related. They could share some code, but they're all just sort of grouped under this top flag. So I'm going to go back into the setup.cfg, and I'm going to change it from being import info to being CLI. And it's going to be CLI is the name of the command line inside CLI module. Okay. Cool. So now we're gonna have to pip reinstall it. Yeah, one more time. By the way, are you on like a time limit? I have to be done in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. I thought about 1 hour, but I don't have anything that I need to do absolutely now. So as soon as you want to leave, we leave.
We're kind of getting towards like the end of a couple big milestones. Yeah. So, like I'm ready to finish up in a bit.
Yeah. I think we can wrap up and then Yeah.
All right. So here we go. We've got PyORCIDator and we've got help. Now when I do this, I've changed it so it's going to show this group of commands. Great. All right. So that's it. We've packaged, we've done a little bit of code updating. We've made a command line that's sort of much more reusable, and we've done this vanity command line and grouped a couple of them. So potentially, you might have some other commands that you want to put in there as well. But actually, if it's the case that you only want one, then you can sort of collapse this back. All right. So there's one other thing I wanted to clean up. Oh, yeah. So there's a couple things you can add into this group as well. To like, I think you can also do like name. You can add some extra metadata to this. You can go
Mhm.
ahead and just look up the documentation, right? So this is the group object, and then you can get some extra stuff, to automatically fill in this auto-generated usage. There's a couple different ways to do this grouping thing. So you might run into sometimes you actually do it this way. And then you do it like click.group with a little g. And then you do cli.add command. So this will actually work exactly the same way. We can show that.
Mhm.
But now we get the text here. There's a couple of reasons you want to do it this way or the other way. But anyway, I'll just leave it like this. Yeah, so
All right.
ultimately for me, what I want is to have this so I can basically run a loop over my list of ORCID IDs right here. So this is all of the
Mhm.
ORCID IDs from my organization, most of which don't have Wikidata accounts. And yeah, I wanna automate looping through that, and yeah, I just actually want a function that takes in an ORCID ID and it makes sure that it's on Wikidata. So we're close to that. You've already done a lot of the work there,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't mind going through and filling in each of those, like doing some checks and for all of the extra
Mhm.
information. I'd be happy to do some of that
Yeah,
curation.
I think one thing is that the it doesn't need on quick statements. You don't need to work only one item at a time. You could do this loop at the package and just like run these very big quick statements that
Yeah,
runs
yeah,
for all of them.
I'd be
And
pretty happy with that.
even if yeah, I'll put this also on the issue tracker as something that
Oh, okay.
I'm also interested in that. This is like a common use case, right? You have a list of orchids and then you want to update them all.
Yeah, and then I want to maybe like add in some other extra statements, like stuff that's not in their ORCID already. But I'm like, all right, I know all these people are from my organization, so I want to
All
add
right.
other statements. I'm not super familiar with that. I don't really like quick statements yet because I don't understand it. Maybe once I see
Mhm.
some better examples, I'll be more comfortable creating it myself, and then it won't bother me. But
All right.
yeah, I know that like I don't know if you've seen the SUAB's Wikidata integrator.
Yes, yes.
It's a little bit
I've
hard
used
to
it a lot.
approach that. I'm not super happy with like digging through the code and trying to reverse engineer.
Yeah. So this
Like,
that Andrea did a lot of good work that on this Wikidata integrator, but I'm under the impression that not many people were working in the project. So um, there is a lot of like just let's say tacit knowledge to use it that it's not really intuitive for those that are coming from outside. But once you get the hang of it, it's quite powerful.
I made a couple pull requests to it to add
Yeah.
features here or there, and even after doing that, I was like, I'm still not really sure why everything works exactly the way it does.
Yeah.
So, that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay. There's one other thing I want to show you. This is going to be like the solution.
Sometimes I use also the PyWikibot. I don't know if you have used that before.
No, I'm
It's
not aware
also
of that one.
yeah, it's also good. It has some limitations, and that's why Android does not use it. Why he like built the integrator, but it's this
What, like everybody, if you've
yeah
got some project and needs something to be done, you're not going to wait for other people to accept your pull request. You start a new project, just like you're doing.
yes
All right.
yes
So here's the last thing that you can do. We've got degree.json. Even GitHub will give us a proper link to download this thing. So URL equals.
all right
All right, and now I'm going to show you this other package which I've written called PySto. And the purpose of PySto is to just like get rid of all this nonsense of acquiring resources from the internet and using them. So,
hmm
all right, well, okay, first, this might be overkill. So like on one hand, you can just do requests, and then you can do like
hmm
data equals request.get url.json. Actually, this is basically good enough, especially if this file is not that big that you don't mind doing this every time you run the package. Maybe you just want to end up doing this instead of referencing the files from the local dictionaries.
all right yeah the whole problem is how to update it, right? I mean, in this case I can get it, but it's a bit harder to update the JSON in GitHub. I'll have to make a pull request. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Yeah, maybe I would suggest also like switching over to using just a TSV rather than JSON here, because then it's the diffs will be smaller and there'll be less extra stuff. Like you don't have to have all these quotes everywhere. Maybe it's easier to sort of coalesce two different like.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have strong opinions about that. It's just that I started using JSON, and yeah, I just use it.
Anyway, it's a simple data format, so it's
Yeah,
not
yeah. All right.
a poll to like change it if you ever want to.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I don't really, I don't have any strong opinions about it. All right. So, can you make just a pull request with the stuff that you just did? Maybe
Wait,
that's
wait.
the easiest.
I want to show you the janky way that I go about like making contributions across the internet, right? So
All right, all right.
I've got all these changes I made, and so I'm gonna not make a thing there. So this is good. This is good. So this is how I check changes that I make. Go through my GitHub UI. Yeah. So okay. Um, make a CLI.
Yeah. I've added the screen again. Yeah,
Can you see? Yeah.
yeah, I can see it.
All right. Here we go. Create pull request. Which I know how to do this from the GitHub interface. So this like package code and add CLI. Okay, pull
Yeah.
request sent.
I was up the pull request now, and there was this little minor issues with the dictionaries and stuff, but I resolved that in the future.
Yeah.
I think that for now this is already good enough.
Mhm.
Sure, I'll just merge it.
Cool. Okay, so last thing, and then I'm gonna call it. So this cookie cutter thing, you can basically start with the cookie cutter, which has all the stuff in the format and all the metadata and whatever inside the CFG. And so this is how I start all my new projects, is this cookie cutter that I've
All
made.
right.
It's got like some different stuff from other cookie cutters. It's got all of my opinions in it, which everyone's got their own. But anyway, the way you do it is like you install cookie cutter, you run cookie cutter with this. It asks you some questions about like what's your name, what's your email address, what's the name of the package, and then it fixes puts everything there. And these are like all the features. Like it uses the source layout. This is set up to CFG and PyProject Toml. It uses Tox for like running all these tests and code quality assurance. It makes you a command line interface like we just did. It does this vanity CLI. It does some stuff with like taking care of versions and release management. It's got documentation with Sphinx, blah, 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 blah. You can read all that later.
All right.
So, yeah, try using that next time you start a package.
All right. Sounds good. I think
Cool.
we can call it. So yeah, it was very cool, Charlie. Thank you for the time and for all the tips. I really learned something, and I hope we can like grow this PyORCIDator to something that's actually usable. I'm already using it like in a minor way that I correct every time that I run it, but I think that it shouldn't be hard to make something that it's. I mean, there's no other option currently. So
yeah, in fact, you may even consider renaming it just to PyORCID, because there are general utilities with interacting with ORCID's data and its API that don't exist anywhere else. And so if you write those, then it's even more general purpose.
True. All right, so I think that's it. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you for everyone that is listening live or in the future. So yeah, see you next time.